Hope everyone is doing well. We are having some rain here in the Bay Area. Raise your hand if you're having rain wherever you are. Fun stuff. Katie, no, Southern California people are like, rain? What's that?
No. We get storms. We don't get rain.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Well, Amity is here now. Amity is our person who is going to kick us off with everything. Let me make sure that's true. Oh yeah, there she is. Hi, Amity. So I am going to turn it over to Amity.
All right. Oh, apologies, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to our December convening of our community of practice for environmental literacy through CALI. Today, we'll start off with our welcome and land acknowledgement, and our focus is on community-based partners today. So we're going to learn more about the ways that county offices of education have really leveraged work with community-based partners to advance our environmental literacy initiatives across the state. We'll have time in breakouts to discuss. We'll introduce the community-based partner toolkit or reintroduce. That's something that was developed several years ago, and we have had sessions previously, but we recognize that this community of practice continues to grow and evolve. And so we want to make sure that that toolkit is still something people are aware of and can put to use. And then we'll have some more breakouts to digest that information and think about how it could be applied in your settings. And also take a dive into the partner portal, a wonderful tool that has been developed more recently and is growing in use across the state. And then we'll close. So for our welcome, I wanted to bring in appreciation for the Indigenous knowledge that we have in our community as our land acknowledgement. And there's a beautiful poem that was shared with me recently that comes with instructional resources to go with it. And so I thought I would open with a little bit of that to acknowledge this idea of community and relying on our community, especially since community-based partners is the theme today, and just to think about how Indigenous communities think about our role in service to one another and to the planet in a different way than colonial settler culture. And so we'll just start off with this little snippet of a video. It should start midway through. So we'll just watch this last portion if you want to start that. Oh, and I think maybe are people hearing?
Can you hear? Let me
No, I
stop
think
sharing.
because
And then,
you get,
sorry, when I went to,
yeah,
I just forgot there was a video and I forgot to click the little
forgot to
button.
click the thing. Do you want to unshare and reshare with
Give me 1 second. I'm so
Awesome.
sorry, everyone.
No, that's fine. We don't often have videos at the start, so it's very easy to do.
Okay, one more time. Oh, share sound. That would be wise.
So, how many trees are really talking to each other? To get a better picture of these forest relationships, a team of researchers used DNA analysis to map a fungal network in a patch of Canadian forest. Remarkably, they found that one tree was connected to 47 other trees. Their models also showed that when hub trees were removed, it would cause more connections to be lost than if trees were simply removed randomly. Studying these kinds of underground exchanges will play a vital role in creating stronger, more resilient forests for the future. So even though we might not be able to talk to trees, at least we can still keep trying to understand their language. Who knows what they might say?
That's it. That's it. Yes, you can move on to the next slide. So that's part of the lessons to introduce different discussions around this poem by Rena Priest, an Indigenous community member from the Washington area. She is actually the poet laureate for Washington State. And this poem, The Forest for the Trees, I will go ahead and just read aloud. I have seen a tree split in two from the weight of its opposing branches. It can survive, though its heart is exposed. I have seen a country do this too. I have heard an elder say that we must be like the willow, bend not to break. I have made peace this way. My neighbors clear-cut their trees, leaving mine defenseless. The arborist says they'll fall in the first strong wind. Together we stand. I see this now. I have seen a tree grown around a bicycle, a street sign, and a chainsaw, absorbing them like ingredients in a great melting pot. When we speak, whether or not we agree, the trees will turn the breath of our words from carbon dioxide into air, give us new breath for new words, new chances to listen, new chances to be heard. So there was just so much in this poem that speaks to what we've all been going through since we last saw each other, and also this concept of the forest and the network of support within the forest was inspiring, and I wanted to share that and bring it to you all. So next slide. If you can share in the chat how you're doing today. This is a practice that we often use at my county office to just give permission to people to bring their full selves to what we're doing together, in a way that you don't have to worry that somebody's going to ask you to explain what's going on. So you can just put a number in the chat, how you're feeling today, this morning, and it just helps in community to see that and to just know where people are at. And if you're a person who's got 5 on your fingers out because you're full of energy and have great things going on, you can give more of that energy to the people who have fewer fingers to show. And just knowing that about each other is helpful. No explanations needed. And then please also just share, who are the hub trees in your world, in your networks, or what is something you're grateful for from your community that you get. So those are the prompts for the chat. We'll put those in and just take a moment to see how we're all doing. So seeing a lot of 3s. And some folks with that high energy to share, which is amazing. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, thank you for acknowledging like how much it changes. One day you're feeling like a 2. Julie's got 5 today. And I'm seeing gratitude for friends checking in on each other. Yes, that is something we can all do that's so helpful to building community. And any other notes on who in your network is a key hub tree for you, or maybe you're the one, the hub tree, and or who you're grateful for, what you're grateful for that you get from community. So family and friends who fill our buckets. Yes. Looking for partners. Yes, so you can have some folks to be grateful for. Yeah, some of our own hub trees are in this group. And people close to us, like fiancés and colleagues at the office. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, everybody. I know the virtual is just such a compromise when we're trying to build community, and we keep these meetings pretty tight. And so we're just doing it in the chat today, but even that little bit of sharing in the chat makes me feel more connected to all of you, and I hope it does help you feel that way too. And I will pass it along. Was I going to do this slide? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so for those of you who may be joining us, sorry, joining us at this community of practice for the first time, and just a reminder for everybody else too, CALI, so the California Environmental Literacy Initiative, which that acronym we say is CALI, like California, is led by 10 Strands, a private foundation, and is a public-private partnership with the Department of Education, California Department of Education. And together they're working statewide to change our education system to integrate environmental literacy with a focus on equity, inclusion, and cultural relevance for all students. And there is a blueprint for that work that we're using as our roadmap for implementation. And it's a collective network, a collective action network across the state. And so the map here you see on the left, which that we're constantly having to evolve it. So if you're seeing a color that's not quite right from where you're at, please don't be offended, but we're always having to try and recheck. But what you see here is in the brighter yellow, there are counties that are involved in an innovation hub that meet monthly to advance this work and try to create tools that county offices across the state can use to build their capacity for integrating environmental literacy and having impactful initiatives at their county, with the goal of every county in the state having someone who's thinking about this, who's working on this. And then the more peachy color are counties that have engaged with the resources and programs that the Innovation Hub has put together for county offices of education. So you can see we're getting close to reaching all the counties in the state, which is exciting. And our objectives really are to build the capacity of county offices of education to be that backbone support in their region for outdoor learning for students that really reaches everyone, especially the most marginalized communities, to support the COEs, to support districts with their own plans, and to use common frameworks. So we are all working toward the same goals and leveraging our actions, and also infusing that sustainability in our own COEs. So walking the talk. And with that, I will turn it over to the team. Thank you all.
Thanks, Amity. And I love the trees. Thank you. Needed that. So this little section, we're going to be talking about our community-based partners and just an introduction to community-based partners. And really kind of our driving question for this is, what are they, and how do they or what are possible ways that they can work with our county offices and how we can support them and they can support us. So if you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is great, but what is a community-based partner? We're so glad you're here, and want to kind of think about them in a kind of some different ways. These are color-coded for a reason. Most of the time when we think of community-based partners, we're thinking about that top row across, the educational providers. We're thinking about museums, aquariums, nonprofits that work with students in that environmental space, outdoor schools, our cities, county, state parks. So, and then we also think about our expanded learning partners. So things like the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club. So these are both in green because it is really kind of where our brains go first when we think about community-based partners, because they're the organizations that are primarily providing services to students. They're running field trips. They are working with teachers. They're working with the community at large. But there's also this whole other backbone of community-based partners. Folks that work with curriculum, our business and industry. We have research partners, especially at our institutes of higher ed, social services, our green facilities and operations. So really leaning heavily into our municipal districts, so waste and sanitation, and then funding partners. So all of the ones that are in yellow are also our community-based partners. They may not always be doing student-facing work, but a lot of times they can provide technical assistance. A lot of times they can provide internships and funding sources. I know we have a funding partner one there, but again, we do a lot of work with our municipal districts here at Orange County, and they're providing both funding, they're providing internships, and they work with us to start to think about programming and offering programming to students. So there's typical community-based partners. Also then thinking of what other types of organizations, this is just a different way to look at the same information. Again, early learning providers, that was not on there. We said expanded learning beforehand, but also our early learning providers. One that is near and dear to my heart are thinking about working with mosquito and vector control, just because mosquitoes, while I know they are needed in the world to be a part of our ecosystem, they like me and I don't care for them. So this is, again, a different way to start thinking about the different types of people that you can start to reach out to that do work in the space. So not only do we think about who they are, but we can also start to think about what they might focus on. So I said some do school programming, field trips, on-site, residential. Some of our community-based partners work specifically with teachers and curriculum and provide professional learning for teachers. Again, both going to sites to be able to work with teachers or them coming to the school. Volunteering community programs and funding. And then also I've left the last two, content expertise and technical assistance. So our community-based partners really have a deep understanding of the place that they work. A lot of our community-based partners have a deep content understanding of where they're choosing to be. And I don't always think that we tap into that or honor the amount of knowledge and experience that our community-based partners bring to the table. And working with them has just been an eye-opening experience because they are especially if they're at a specific site and they are working the land and they are seeing how that land changes every day and through the seasons and seeing what animals are there, what plants are there, and being able to bring that understanding to kids and to educators and to the community is really a very special thing. So we get to actually, and sadly, I wish Crystal was here to introduce her. Because Crystal and Tara work so closely together, and they've worked together because Crystal has talked about her since I've known her. I've known her a long time. And I know they've worked on all sorts of different things, but we're super honored to be able to showcase the work that Tara Fraud and Crystal have done. She is the executive director for the San Diego Children and Nature. And for those of us in the science community and are a part of the California Association of Science Educators, or CASE, she is also our informal science director and sits on our board. So I am going to pass this over to Tara to be able to kind of explain some of the ways that they work together and share that experience with you.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and working with the County Office of Ed with Crystal over probably a decade now has been incredibly beneficial. I know for me and hopefully for Crystal and the County Office of Ed as well. So I'm happy to be here and share some of the stuff that we've done. Just to clarify, I'm Tara. I know my name is difficult, and my last name is Fuad, F-U-A-D. Not a big deal, but just if anybody's
Thank you. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
confused about the name. Anyway, so nice to be here. My name is Tara Fuad, and I'm executive director of San Children Nature. This is a fairly new role for me. It's been 3 years. During COVID, I sort of had this little aha moment and shifted from a nonprofit that brought students to a lagoon. I was the education director for estuary and did a lot of school programs, and started thinking about how we could have even greater impact, although those field trips are incredibly important, but how can we have greater impact by really empowering teachers to work with the students beyond those field trips, right? So using schoolyards and nearby nature as routine practices. And I know that you're all supportive of that because you're on this call. But like, how do we do that better? And Crystal and I sort of talked about that and started looking at how we could really work with schools and school districts, focusing mainly on professional learning for teachers. Just back up a tiny bit. The San Children and Nature was founded in 2009. It was really an inspiration from Richard Louv in the Last Child in the Woods, that book. I'm guessing most of you are familiar with that. Richard Louv is from San Diego. He lives here locally. And just trying to think like, how can we get children outside and connect to nature, and not just for the benefit of children, but really for the benefit of nature as well. And we sort of looked at 3 different ways of how we can do that, through community, working with Parks and Rec or different programs, through families. We have a Family Adventures in Nature program that's totally volunteer based. And then, working with educators, because students spend a lot of time at school, and also schools have properties. A lot of them, some of them are completely paved over. Maybe that can change, but a lot of them have areas that, are interesting to look at and explore and to get outside. And so in the last few years, and since I've come on to San Children Nature, we've really focused on schools and school districts. And that's where Crystal and I work collaboratively to provide professional learning. And we kind of have this shared funding where, she might kick in some funding, but I get also private funding. We got a, statewide whale tail grant, Samuel Foundation, SDG&E, different funding that will support teacher training. And the teacher trainings can vary anywhere from 2 hours, just like get excited about going outside. And here are some really, basic things that you can do using hand lenses or asking questions or being curious or observing this one plant over a period of time. So it can be from 2 to 24 hours, the training. And one of the trainings that we did recently last year was really impactful, where we worked with the same teachers over 9 months, and we met every 3 months. I mean, we met for 4 hours every month and sort of had them do assignments in between. And I think working collaboratively, I come with the science, sort of familiar with the landscape, plants, animals, locally. Crystal comes with sort of the authority of, the County Office of Ed, like what we're teaching you is not an add-on, but it is actually what you're supposed to be doing. You really making those strong connections to the state standards. So I think co-teaching, we had two people from Santa Children Nature, and then we had Crystal, the environmental literacy coordinator and science coordinator. And so bringing the four of us together and really having that sort of shared knowledge of standards and, what's expected, and also what is, get to know your local environment. And we continue to stay in touch with those teachers, and it's just a way that bringing shared knowledge together and providing these professional learning. We use a lot of the Beatles Project, nature journaling, John Muir Laws. So we're not really like creating new curriculum. What we're trying to do is inspire them to look at their existing lessons and how they can take these new techniques and incorporate them into what they're already teaching and using outdoor spaces. We also co-chair a network called the San Diego Environmental Education Leaders Network. And in that capacity, we provide professional learning both for teachers, but also for community-based partners. So these environmental education groups, we want to make sure that they're using, that it's sort of somewhat standardized. So they know that they need to make these links to state standards, so schools and school districts will use them and not feel like they're wasting their time, and not that it's just something extra, but that it's actually part of what they're supposed to be doing. So professional learning, both for classroom teachers, but also for environmental educators. And for the first time this year, we're hosting an environmental literacy summit. And that's going to be a full day event where we're, again, hoping to bring, one thing that we're trying to do is bringing together teachers and nonprofit leaders. So they're talking to each other, learning from each other, with each other, and learning how they can, work together with the ultimate goal, right, for the students to benefit from science, outdoor, nature connections, and just all the other benefits that students get from just stepping outside during the school day. We also host a monthly nature journaling club where teachers come on the weekends. That's just on their own, and learn new techniques about nature journaling, and really trying to use that because we feel like that's something that's very accessible. You just need a piece of paper and a pencil, and there's so many things that you can notice and inquiries and questions that come from just sitting down, slowing down, and adding things to a nature journal. So that's something that we really push through the outdoor learning. We'll also spotlight different organizations so teachers can learn about them through a newsletter and also site visits. And we also provide networking opportunities for teachers and community-based partners to come together. So just a lot of ways of sort of, which I think we all know is important, is creating community and trust among community-based partners and teachers, and also schools and school districts. So working both with teachers, but also working at the higher levels of, the TOSAs or the school administrators. So that's sort of, doing a lot of different things and just looking at how we can make these connections for the kids through supporting teachers and having meaningful lessons that the teachers and community-based partners incorporate into their teaching. Let me think. Any questions or anything else? Did that cover what I was supposed to say? I just learned yesterday that I was supposed to do this.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm gonna try to, we refreshed had too many balls in the air this week. That is too many balls in the air. So, thank you so much. There we go. Yes, Crystal was very, very generous and, put us in contact at the beginning of this week. And so would love to open it up. If folks have questions, I'm always learn always something a little bit new when she starts talking about the work that the two of you are doing together. And I'll be honest, get a little bit jealous that she has such an amazing partner in the area that you all can start to bring together different groups of people.
I do feel like, Crystal has a lot on her plate. You all do. And I feel like it's a way that, I can support her, but she can also support me. For example, if we want to do a professional learning, she can reach out to all the TOSAs in the entire county, and we'll get, twice as many teachers that applied for this grant program than we could actually, accept the program, I don't think I would have gotten that many, or I wouldn't have gotten that many had I not had Crystal sort of, reaching out to her network. And so we sort of have different networks, but they also overlap, and we're trying more and more to get them to overlap even more. So I think we're like here right now, and we want to be like this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Um, if you're thinking about the community-based partners in your neighborhood, in your area, there are places that you can find them. And that is the Cali Partner Portal. So we'll put in the chat. Some of our county offices have microsites that are on this. We'd love to have all of our county offices have a microsite. And if you're working with community-based partners, I would highly encourage them to get onto this. There are ways to do that. You can reach out to Celeste at 10 Strands, and she can help support putting your organization on there or help getting your county on there. And if you're wanting to find out more around what our community-based partners, different ways that they work in the space, we actually have a community-based partner innovation hub here at Cali, and they've put together some beautiful webinars. The ones from last year are recorded and up on the website, and they have 3 that are coming up this winter. So if you are here and you are a community-based partner and you want to start getting connected, I would highly encourage going to some of these webinars. If you're also wanting to connect in ways of like, how can I support our community-based partners in like funding pathways, or there's one that was interesting on that is a recorded one on thinking about safety and how do you start working with that. And as I know, a lot of our educators that we work with, sometimes that safety issue is like that's their stumbling block for getting kids outside. So looking at our community-based partners as our experts in the field of like working with kids outside, working with adults outside, and things that like that. We've done a lot of talking with this, and we'd love to actually get you all talking and connected. So again, some of the ways that some of the typical community-based partners are on the left. Some of the things that they can do are on the right. So just a little refresher in the brain. And we're going to go ahead and put in the chat some questions that you might want to discuss. We're going to put you into some random breakout rooms. So thinking about the community-based partners and organizations that you actually work with in your county. Who might you reach out to? Who have you thought of working with? Who haven't you yet? What might be some entry points to support them, and how might your work actually align? As so much of what we do in environmental literacy does overlap, and we really, it shouldn't be them, it really should all be together and us. And how can we start to align our work and support our work to have that common experience for people? And then thinking about what is your time and ability to add community-based partners to your plate? So what is the real reality of it all? So somebody, Paulina, very, very generously put into the chat those questions. We're going to put you into breakout rooms for about 12 minutes or so. Please introduce yourself. We know that things are going on in the background, but when it's in small groups, it's nice to have a face to go with the talking. And we'll be back in about 12 minutes.
Okay, oh, someone else did it. All right. Perfect. Everybody's so on it.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope everybody had interesting conversations I know that we did in ours. And as soon as I come back, you would think that this was the first time I was doing Zoom. I hope that there were some good conversations. As I said, in ours, there were some fantastic sharing of resources and different ways that folks are working with community-based partners in the area. So I am actually going to pass this now over to Julie.
Okay, thanks, Katie. The room I was in had a great discussion, and it seems that we have people who are in sort of different places with starting a community partners network. And so there's just such a rich community on which to draw. So what I'm going to do is go through the toolkit, but I would love it if just in the chat, real quick, if people would put either yes or no, if you already have a community-based partners network in your county, just so we can kind of get a pulse. If you don't have one, don't worry. That's why we're here. So just a quick yes or no. And I also want to be able to tailor this discussion as well. Excellent. Okay, this is great so far. Okay. All right. Well, once again, if you're comfortable just putting in the chat a yes or a no, then that will help us tailor this. Okay, so I see a lot of yeses, but also some people that are just starting out. I know that in our breakout room, there were, it was once again a wide variety. So I will give a lot of kudos to some of the people on this call who created this community-based partner network toolkit. I came on to my position in Cali 2 years ago, and I will be very honest with you that I did not go through this toolkit and didn't even really know that it existed or just wasn't in my consciousness. And I've been leading a network now for 2 years. And so I go, like I wish I had gone through it in the beginning, but just going through it to get ready for this presentation was so helpful. Even though we have an established network, we have, 35 community partners here in San Mateo County that we, have been working with now since 2017. This toolkit is golden. It was super helpful for me to go through it. So I think no matter where you are in the process, this will hopefully be really helpful for you. Next slide. Oh, and in the speaker notes on that slide, there is a link to the toolkit, and maybe one of our co-facilitators can put that into the chat. So the reason that Cali created this toolkit is because of some of the things that we've already talked about so far today. Our community partners play such a key role in being able to support environmental education in a way that is realistic, place-based, allows kids to get out and into nature, all of those things that we really want to be doing with environmental literacy, but then also supporting green careers and programs that are addressing our environmental challenges that we're all experiencing. And so the network can really be a backbone for what county offices are trying to accomplish. Next slide. So when you go into the toolkit, this slide, you can't click on these on this slide, but you'll see that when we talk about community-based partner networks, we're really talking about national, regional, state, and local and county. And so, organizations like North American Association for Environmental Education is a wonderful national organization. At the regional level, we have some community partners that have actually collaborated together in terms of like Riverside and San Bernardino counties have gotten together. And so then it's not just one county, but it's sort of a region-wide partnership alliance. At the state level, of course, we have our Association for Environmental and Outdoor Education, AEOE, which is super active in Cali, plus all of these other amazing partners like CREEC, California Regional Environmental Education Community. And so, those are state level networks, and then local and county that really is often county based. So San Joaquin and Monterey Bay, and I know we have people on the call right now from Monterey Bay, and San Mateo County is the network that we have in our county, and Sonoma as well. So you can click on any of those in the toolkit. They're not clickable on the slide. Next slide. So it's not a requirement that community-based partner networks happen from the County Office of Education, but the network can be so mutually beneficial. And so we're going to talk about how the toolkit can support the creation of those networks. In our county, we have had over the years, because we've had a network since 2017, my predecessor realized that, fostering and facilitating a community-based partner network, if you want to do it very, very robustly, it takes funding and it takes a lot of time. And so, we were able to get a grant to hire somebody to do that. Now, that grant has run out and that person is still here, but that person is no longer running the community-based partner network. So how the COE runs the network can really vary depending on, funding and all the things that are being supported. So we'll talk about ways to make that happen. Mara in the chat is pointing out that at the state level, you can reach out to local County Office of Education leads for expanded learning as well. So expanded learning, definitely, thank you, Mara, for pointing that out. Expanded learning is a great resource for community-based partners. So what I did with the toolkit was I went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I pulled out the main ideas, because one of the things that someone was saying in our breakout room is when you get a resource, which is big like this is, it's kind of overwhelming to go through the whole thing. I mean, this toolkit is many, many pages long. And so I wanted to pull out the main things that would hopefully give you a taste of what's in there, and then you can go into certain parts that are more useful for you. So one of the things the toolkit talks about is the benefits of having a network. And again, we've talked about some of these things already. One of the biggies, I think, is, again, just getting those kids out and making education really relevant for them. The experiences that students have with community-based partners is often the thing that they remember. They remember that field trip years later. I still remember mine in third grade to the Academy of Sciences. And even though we're only 30 miles from there, that's the only time I ever went there, and I remember it really vividly. Combining expertise for greater impact, we have in our county a lot of community partners, but they're all really tiny and they're completely strapped. And so one of the things that a funder said to me was kind of whispering it at an event that we had. She said, Julie, these community partners, they're these tiny organizations. They keep needing funding. They need to get together and be collaborating and asking for funding and going for these grants together. And so that is something, rather than thinking of themselves as competing with each other, they can collaborate with each other for greater impact. And I think in this funding environment that we have right now, that is like so important. So that's one of the things that we're really focusing on in our network. I touched on a lot of these already, but more brains are better than one. If you're a tiny organization and you're trying to innovate by getting together with other organizations, it makes a huge difference for your organization and for all of the others. So those are some of the benefits. And there's a lot more detail in the toolkit, but I wanted to pull those out. Next slide. Okay. The only one on this slide, so these are some example community-based partner networks. The only one that I can really speak to here is the San Mateo CBEP network, Community-Based Environmental Education Partners Network. And I'm kind of talking about it all the way through here, so I won't say much about it here. San Joaquin also has their network, which they are adapting to the community landscape. I don't know if we have anybody from San Joaquin. I don't see Tamara here today. Amity, you might know better. And then Ventura is launching a new network. So once again, these are just websites that you can take a look at to see how they are approaching the development of their networks. Amity or Katie, did you want to say anything else about that slide?
I'll just say I believe San Joaquin at that time was a good highlight of a county where um, the messaging around environmental literacy and climate change had to really stay focused on sustainability and really involve a lot of the natural resource management agencies. Like some areas don't have as many nonprofit environmental education groups. And if you're in a county where you don't feel like, oh, we don't have a lot of those kinds of partners, there are still going to be agencies that manage natural resources, water, energy, waste management, and they all have education goals to have the public be more aware of the importance of increasing sustainability. And so those are the partners to look toward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, even in our county where we have a lot of community partners, our agency partners are by far, I put them as my tree people, because the waste management agencies, the stormwater pollution prevention, the mosquito vector control, I'm telling you, it is one of the favorite field trips of all of our community partners. Kids love this field trip. So, and I wouldn't have thought of that, mosquito vector control, so it's really cool, those agency partners. So next slide. Okay, there's a whole section in the toolkit that talks about findings from the field. First is the key first steps, and then the second one talks about community engagement. So on page 16, these are the things that are focused on. So choosing a network model or structure. I can speak to what we have in our county. So we have, and it's actually varied over the years. Like I said, with funding, without funding, it's going to kind of change. So you do what you can with what you've got at the time. We have co-leads. So I lead it with two co-leads from two of our community partners. So that way there's shared leadership. It's not just all falling on the County Office of Education. And, once you engage with the community partners in your region, then you can find those that are super into this, and they're probably going to be the ones that are going to want to co-host with you. Hosting an initial convening is just bringing everybody together and getting to know each other. So in the next slide, we're going to talk about community. Whoops, sorry. Not quite ready. I've mentioned the next slide too soon. So surveying the network. All right, in the speaker notes of this slide, I put in a survey from 2017, which is literally like a half piece of paper with some questions on it. And very, very simple. And then I also put in the link to our Google form that we used this year, which of course is much more robust because we've been doing this for a long time. So don't feel like you got to have all this stuff really robust in the beginning. Just start small, start wherever you are if you're just in the beginning. And yeah, so creating that shared ownership and building trust is really important. Yeah, thank you, Tara. Thanks for being here earlier. Let's see, next slide now. Okay, the other findings from the field section talks about building community. And that's on page 19. And so again, the whole, like in the beginning, don't feel like you have to have like a ton of professional development to be doing for your network, because you just want to get to know who everybody is and build those relationships, find out what the strengths are of each organization, create some group agreements, figure out who the leadership is going to be to share that leadership. And as the network goes on, making sure you're staying relevant. So that's where you can bring in guest speakers. You can have each community partner share at a different meeting, what they do and what they can offer. And an example that I'll give is that at our next community partner quarterly meeting, we're having we're having a community partner talk about their DEI, so their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that they're doing, because that's been a need of our partners for several years now. And so, there's a lot of great expertise there. So you don't have to feel like you're always the one that's doing it all. Reassessing needs. So like I said, like every year we send out our survey again to find out what do we need to do this year. And now this one's not in the toolkit, but I put in there how beneficial this has been is that if the COE can host an event that showcases partners, put out a bunch of tables, have some snacks, invite teachers from all over your county to come. Community partners have amazing tabling resources. Like they can put up just beautiful stuff that they can share with teachers. So if that is something that you're able to do, if you have enough partners to do that, and you're able to bring in teachers and bring all the community partners together, that I think has been the best way that we've been able to share out information about our partners in a smaller scale, like just our county. Next slide. Putting equity at the forefront. So there's a section in there about equity. So making sure that the organizations that you have there, frankly, are not just a bunch of who's. We have a lot of certain type of demographic in our environmental education. And so making sure that we are elevating those needs and leaderships from lots of different organizations. We have in our county climate resilient communities and Anamatangi Polynesian voices, and they are part of our network, for example. Next slide. Okay, on page 26 of the toolkit, let me just check my timing here and see how I'm doing. All right, on page 26 of the toolkit, I'd like you to just take a minute to click on that toolkit that was put in the chat, go to page 26, and, oh, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, hold on one second before you do that. So the thing on page 26, which we'll look at in a second, is a self-assessment tool that can help you kind of self-assess where you are right now. It's a rubric, it's got 4 columns and all of that. And I think it would be helpful right now to just take a few minutes and have you look at that, because everybody's in a different place. Some people are just starting out, some people are much further along. And so this self-assessment tool allows you to be able to do periodic self-assessment. And so like for me, I need to use this tool because, again, we've been doing this for a long time, but I have not self-assessed for ages since I didn't know this toolkit existed until more recently. So what I want to do is just kind of stop talking and just give you a minute or two, and I'm behind on the time now, so not too long. But just take a look at that. And we're not going to breakout rooms yet. We will. And we'll just cut the breakout rooms a little shorter because I think it would be really beneficial for you to just go to that page 26. And it's 26 to 29. Oh, next slide. Sorry, that's where I got ahead of myself. So here it is. You're going to explore the rows for shared vision and equitable access, and just think about what stage of development you are in your region. So I will stop talking and let's just do this. I wish we had more time, but let's do this for 2 minutes.
And I will add that if you don't have a network in your region, like Ventura's was a place where they actually used this rubric when they were launching a brand new network to look at from the start and to identify. They used it to help them identify their goals as a network. So it's fine if you don't have a network to look at it and think about for a beginning group, what would you be working on?
Yes, perfect. Thanks, Amity. Okay, I'll turn off my microphone just for a couple minutes. Okay. Now I know that wasn't enough time because I know how extensive and robust that rubric is. But hopefully that gave you enough time to just kind of familiarize yourself with the self-assessment tool. Does anybody have any questions about what you saw there before we go into breakout rooms? I'm going to give you some questions to think about and go back into breakout rooms. So any observations or questions at this point? Okay. Something Amity said in the chat I think is important, where the key findings were based on data from a survey of effective environmental education community-based partner networks across the state. And I did actually mean to tell you that the key findings came from community-based partners and networks themselves. And so that helps everybody not have to reinvent the wheel, right? All right, when you go into breakout rooms again, we're going to go in there for about 12 minutes. And at what stage of development are the community-based partners in your region and the networks? What needs do you have for creating a network? How do you see your organization using the toolkit? And then just generally share your expertise with each other about your own CBEEP networks, because everybody here is such an expert and has something different to share about something. So those I think have gone into the chat. Yes, they have.
Yeah, although they're different than what was in our agenda. So now I'll grab from the slides. Basically, choose the questions that resonate for you. And I'll put
I took one of them out and I put in a new one.
Okay.
So the only new one is the sharing expertise.
Uh-huh.
So sorry about that. I know I
It's okay.
kind of did that last minute. So, okay, there we go. So now all the questions are in the chat. Thanks, Amity, for noticing that. And I think we're ready to go into the breakout rooms. Really quickly, the breakout room I was in was very enlightening because there are things that I didn't talk about that might have been helpful for everybody, and especially for the people who are starting out new. So a couple of things I'm going to put in the chat. Jennifer asked a great question about where do you send teachers to find out about these environmental experiences? So because the websites that we gave you, those are for community partners, they're not for teachers. So I'm going to put in the chat an example of our expanded learning website, which has the experiences for teachers, plus the community partners portal, Cali community partners portal. That's the other place that we send them. Another thing that was said was that that rubric is not helpful for people who are really starting out. Let me rephrase that. It's not that it's not helpful. It's just that I think what that rubric is most helpful for is just kind of placing yourself. And if you're at the very beginning, that's fine. Maybe you don't use the rubric right away, and that's okay. But the other things in the toolkit can be very helpful. But Amity said that, there is a group that use that rubric in order to sort of set some goals and start themselves out.
Yeah.
And Amity put it in the chat, the partner portal as well, and that's where teachers can go and they can search by county and find out about experiences that way. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Amity so we can get you out of here on time, and forgive me for going a little bit over time.
No, it's great. Thank you for, bringing up the important points from the breakout. This is just a quick wrap up to remind you that we have 2 more sessions in the new year. The first on expanded learning and the next on youth programs. And be sure to register. I'm putting this in the chat, the registration link. That way you get the Zoom link sent to you as a calendar invitation. And also, you can go to the next slide. That's fine. Yeah, so the registration's there. You can also reach out to us in between meetings. These are the folks in the Innovation Hub and the slide hyperlinks to our emails. We're always happy to support. And next slide. Also in the chat is the Gottson Needs form. If you can please take a moment to just quickly jot down what you got out from today, out of today's program, and something you're hoping to discuss or learn with the COP in the rest of the year. There's also a question specific to the next session, just like any input on the agenda for the expanded learning topic. So we'd love to get that feedback to help us design a session that's relevant for you. Next slide. And just a reminder that Cali, the website there, I highly recommend subscribing to the newsletter and getting the announcements that come through Cali. Really great stuff. And all of the resources we share are up on the website on the resources section. And I think that's it. Thank you all so much for coming today and for being a part of this work, for prioritizing environmental literacy. Please share about the community of practice with colleagues, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
I'm happy to stay on. Well, I guess not. Never mind.